The barrel of the old shotgun shook in Leo's hands. 3 meters away, leaning against a dry oak tree, was the monster. By the logic of the new world, that creature should have already charged. It should have ripped out Leo's throat with the irrational ferocity that decimated 90% of humanity. But it didn't move. The thing, as Leo initially thought of it, just watched him. Its eyes weren't milky or vacant like the other infected. There was a piercing blue, almost conscious, hidden behind the cataract of infection. Leo steadied his finger on the trigger. It was the rule of the forest. If it doesn't breathe, shoot. If it grunts, shoot twice. But when Leo took the final step for the execution, the unthinkable happened. The creature raised its rotting arm, not to attack, but to point. The gray finger pointed to the ground, a few inches from Leo's boot. The boy looked down, and the blood froze in his veins. There, camouflaged under dead leaves, was a rusty bear trap, ready to sever his leg. Leo stepped back, panting. He looked at the trap, then at the zombie. The creature slowly lowered its arm and let out a low sound, which sounded painfully like a sigh of relief. In that moment, all the laws of survival Leo had learned in 3 years of apocalypse were broken. That monster had just saved its killer's life. Bringing an infected person into the safe zone was more than a crime. It was social suicide. If the border militia found out, Leo would be executed in the public square before sunset. But he couldn't simply turn his back. There was a life debt there. With much effort, Leo guided the creature through the least guarded trails of the forest. The zombie limped, dragging a leg that seemed to have been broken even before the infection. What impressed Leo most wasn't the docility, but the discipline. The zombie didn't try to wander off. He followed Leo like a silent, rotting bodyguard. They arrived at Leo's underground bunker, an old air raid shelter the boy had turned into a home. The smell of mold and diesel fuel filled the air. Leo locked the reinforced steel door and turned around, expecting the delayed attack, expecting the viral instinct to take over. But the creature just walked to the darkest corner of the room, sat on a wooden crate, and crossed its legs. Not just any way, but with an upright, almost noble posture. Leo threw a piece of rancid jerky at him. The zombie looked at the meat with disdain and gently pushed it away. He pointed to a bottle of filtered water. Leo felt a chill down his spine. Zombies didn't drink water. Zombies didn't have preferences. Who or what was sitting in his bunker? Days turned into weeks, and the routine inside the bunker became the most surreal experience of Leo's life. He decided to call the zombie Gray, and Gray wasn't a pet. He was a proactive tenant. One night, Leo woke up to a rhythmic metallic noise. He grabbed his knife, heart racing, only to find Gray sitting at the workbench. The zombie's hands, though trembling and with peeling skin, were disassembling and cleaning Leo's sniper rifle. That rifle had been jammed for months. Leo, with all his youth and inexperience, had never managed to fix the firing mechanism. Gray, however, worked with frightening muscle memory. His fingers fitted the springs and pins with the familiarity of someone who had done that 1,000 times. When he finished, he slid the weapon across the table toward Leo and gave a short nod. Leo picked up the gun. The bolt slid as smooth as butter. He looked at Gray, who was now trying to smooth the filthy rags of his shirt, as if trying to get wrinkles out of an invisible suit. The intelligence was there, trapped in a carcass that didn't respond. It was like watching a genius pianist trying to play with handcuffed hands. Leo's curiosity overcame his fear. He started bringing things from the surface to test Gray. Books, tools, maps. Gray ignored romance novels and gossip magazines, but when Leo brought a financial newspaper from 5 years ago, the creature's eyes lit up. He ran his finger over the stock quotes, grunting in different tones, as if analyzing the economic collapse that preceded the end of the world. But the turning point happened when Leo brought a broken tablet he found in an abandoned executive office. The battery was dead, the screen cracked. Gray took the device as if it were a sacred treasure. For 3 days, the zombie didn't sleep. He used copper wires pulled from the wall and a car battery to create a makeshift power source. When the tablet screen finally lit up, casting a bluish light in the dark bunker, Leo saw what Gray was trying to access. It wasn't family photos. It wasn't maps. It was an encrypted file called Lazarus Project. Before Leo could ask what that was, the sound of helicopters tore through the silence of the forest above them. They weren't the militia's scrap metal helicopters. The sound was heavy, rhythmic, and modern. Leo climbed up the makeshift periscope to spy on the surface. What he saw made his stomach turn. Men dressed in black tactical armor, unidentified, were rappelling into the clearing. They They wore thermal visors and carried weaponry worth more than Leo's entire safe zone. On the soldiers' chests, a discreet emblem, Aegis Biosolutions, the corporation that, rumor had it, controlled the world's last technology resources. They weren't sweeping the area randomly. They were following a tracker. Leo ran down the stairs. Gray was standing, agitated. The zombie knew they were there. He pointed to his own neck, where a small surgical scar pulsed under the gray skin. It was a chip. They weren't hunting just any monster. They were coming to retrieve their property. "We have to leave," Leo whispered, stuffing a backpack with supplies. "No." But Gray refused. He pushed Leo toward the emergency exit in the back and positioned himself at the main door. He intended to surrender himself to buy the boy time. Leo didn't accept the sacrifice. He grabbed Gray's cold arm and pulled him into the sewer tunnel that served as an escape route. "You fixed my gun. I save your hide. We're even," Leo grumbled. They crawled through mud and debris for miles, while above them, explosions destroyed the bunker. Aegis wasn't playing around. They leveled the place. When they finally emerged in a distant valley, Gray's condition had worsened drastically. The physical exertion was accelerating the infection. Gray's skin was turning black, and his blue eyes were starting to be taken over by a white mist. He was coughing up a viscous liquid. The tame zombie was losing the battle against the virus. He looked at Leo with desperation, trying to articulate words with a throat that no longer worked. Leo knew he had only one option. In his backpack, wrapped in old rags, was a glass ampoule with a golden liquid. It was an experimental mixture Leo had stolen from an abandoned field lab months ago. The label read only, Serum V09, unstable. He had never had the courage to use or sell it, fearing it was poison. Chapter 7, The Serum of Truth. Night fell and the rain began, cold and radioactive. Gray was convulsing on the floor of the cave where they hid. The virus was finally consuming the consciousness left in him. Leo broke the seal on the ampoule. "Look, buddy," Leo said, his voice choking up. "This might cure you, or it might explode your brain. Either way, it's better than turning into one of them." Gray, in a moment of lucidity, held Leo's wrist. He didn't try to stop him. He nodded. It was permission. Leo injected the golden liquid directly into the zombie's carotid artery. The reaction was immediate and violent. Gray screamed, not a grunt, but a human scream of pure agony. His body arched. Veins popped out like purple ropes under his skin. Dark blood began to ooze from his pores, as if the body were forcibly purging the disease. Leo had to hold him down so he wouldn't hurt himself on the rocks. After 2 minutes of absolute terror, Gray lay still. Leo checked for a pulse. Nothing. The silence in the cave was deafening. Leo leaned his head against the stone wall, tears mixing with the dirt on his face. He had killed his only friend. Chapter 8, The Titan's Awakening. The morning sun hit the cave entrance, illuminating the body. Leo was digging a shallow grave with his hands when he heard a deep breath. Not a gasp, but a clean, strong inhalation. He turned around. The being lying there was no longer gray. The skin, though covered in fine scars, had a rosy hue of life. The thinning hair had fallen out, revealing a clean scalp. The man opened his eyes. They were electric blue, vibrant with intelligence and authority. He sat up, looked at his own hands, flexing his fingers. Then he looked at Leo. The efficacy rate of compound V09 was theoretically 14%, said the man. His voice was raspy, but his diction was perfect, authoritative, used to giving orders that moved mountains. "You have a steady hand for an amateur, kid." Leo was paralyzed. "Who are you?" The man stood up, adjusting the rags he wore with the dignity of an emperor. "My name is Arthur Vance. I am the CEO of Vance Biometrics, and, technically, I own the world that existed before all this." Chapter 9, The Corporate Revenge. The revelation came quickly. Arthur Vance hadn't been infected by accident. His own board of directors, led by his deputy, injected him with a modified strain to get him out of the way and sell the cure, which Arthur had created, only to the super-rich, turning the apocalypse into a business model. They left him as a conscious zombie to suffer eternally. But now, Vance was back, and he was furious. "They have an extraction point 2 kilometers from here," Vance said, analyzing the horizon. "The helicopter that came to hunt me." What followed wasn't a fight, it was a tactical massacre. Leo watched Arthur Vance, unarmed and wearing rags, dismantle an elite Aegis squad. The serum hadn't just cured him, it seemed to have enhanced his reflexes. Vance used the environment, psychology, and brute force with surgical precision. When they reached the helicopter, the pilot tried to take off. Vance hung onto the landing gear, smashed the cockpit glass, and threw the pilot out. He took the controls. "Do you know how to fly this?" Leo shouted. toasted, getting into the cabin. Vance smiled, a predatory smile. I designed this. Chapter 10, The New Council. 6 months later, the world wasn't cured, but it was changing. The walls of the Aegis citadels had fallen, not by war, but by code. Vance had retaken control of the global satellite network and released the cure formula to all surviving settlements via radio and drones. Leo walked through the glass and steel corridors of the new Vance & Partners headquarters. He no longer wore dirty rags, but a tailored suit that still felt strange on his body. He stopped before the double doors of the president's office. Inside, Arthur Vance was on a video conference with the leaders of the remaining nations. Upon seeing Leo, he ended the call immediately. Did the shipment of supplies reach the southern zones? Vance asked. Delivered and secure, replied Leo. They are calling you the Savior. Vance walked to the window, looking at the city that was starting to turn its lights on again. They are wrong, Leo. The Savior was the boy who didn't shoot when he saw a monster. Vance poured 2 glasses of whiskey. I built the empire, but you saved humanity from it. Leo took the glass, looking at his reflection in the glass. He saw the scared young man from the forest disappear, replaced by the man who helped rewrite history. What is tomorrow's agenda, Mr. Vance? Tomorrow, Vance toasted, we go get the others. No one gets left behind.